In this video, we are going to be talking about conquering cold calling in commercial real estate. This is the number one way to put more deals in your pipeline. And in this video, we're going to be talking about pre-call, during the call, and post-call, and also do some live role playing at the end. So be sure you stay tuned for that and enjoy. All right, so here's how this is going to go down. So first thing is first, what we're going to do and go through, this is called dial tone domination. Okay, we want to get better at cold calling here. There's many ways you can do business development, increase your GCI, put more deals in the pipeline. But in commercial real estate, cold calling is still king of business development. And so we're going to get into what it's like to have a successful phone call. And we're going to kind of break that down in three different parts. The way that we're going to do this is that C. John is going to go through the pre-call. So what does it look like before you get on the phone? During the call, we're going to have Elon take that. And then after the call, which is super important, every single one of these steps. But post-call, I'm going to take that. And, what does it look like from start to finish? Really, we thought this would be a good way to break it up and beneficial to you all, because there's much more that goes on than just the call. Like just during the call itself, like, yes, that's important, but what system, what strategy do you have in place? How do you do on the phones? And then also post call, like what's your follow-up process look like? All of this is a part of dominating the phones and really being good and cold calling and business development in this business. After that, we'll go through some live role playing. So we got scenario 1 and 2 that Elon, C. John, and myself are going to take care of. And then we got scenario 3 and 4 that we're going to go after, and would love some participation from the audience here. And I know it can be intimidating. I know it can be awkward. I know you're not going to have your most perfect cold call ever. None of us do. And like still, even on the phones, like there's always some time where you're going to get, your foot caught in your mouth. So especially here in a room full of 100 people, it's pretty courageous to jump on and do a live cold call. So and this is just audience to audience, member to member, and we'd love for y'all to jump in and do that. And then after that, we'll do some Q&A. All right. C. John's going to start us off. What does it look like for us pre-call?
I deeply believe that you need to time block this. Like this needs to be on your calendar. It can't be afterthought. You start the day, you're kind of getting rolling, you had your coffee, you're feeling slightly motivated, slightly sorry for yourself because you're not hitting your commission mark. And then you kind of get to the office and like, if I feel excited, I'm going to hit the phones. If not, I'll just kind of, maybe text a couple people that I've been working with, or just check CoStar and read the news. I deeply believe that you need to put this on your calendar. If you have a meeting with somebody, you're probably going to show up, right? If I have a meeting with Elon, I may want Elon to wait just a couple of minutes just to keep him on his toes, but I'll probably actually show up on time or show up early. What I like about having it on my calendar is like my mind is already like, oh, in 15 minutes it says cold call this industrial market. I'm going to show up. And so you need to have it on your calendar. You need to put it recurring. If you want to get creative, if you're hitting multiple markets, put on these recurring, every Tuesday I'm hitting up Boca Raton industrial market, or every Wednesday I've got this one client that's looking for this retail, a single tenant, triple net retail. And you know that, hey, you're going to have something to report on, right? With your clients. Hey, I've made probably 200 calls. This is what I've got for you. Here's what I'm hearing. There's a couple of opportunities, but we're not there yet. You want to be able to, that's value to your clients, whether it's a buyer or whether it's a seller, but that's value. Because we always talk about, we want to be able to provide something to the people that we're working with. So time block, just put it on there, show up, and stay accountable with somebody. Maybe you need an accountability partner. I have one. Some people reach out to me and they're like, man, you motivate me and I'm inspired by your journey. And there's days when I wake up, guys, and that's the reality. I don't really want to call anybody, but because I have people that I'm staying accountable to, it's easier for me to get on the phones, because I know that it's going to take me 1 or 2 minutes to get in and start to feel the vibe and start to feel that nice flow state. But getting to that point is everyone's difficulty. The next thing that I would say for pre-call is, you show that next point for me. Set a minimum standard. A lot of people will argue on LinkedIn. We're all there. Like, hey, it's not about the number of calls, it's about the conversations. Then it's like, hey, it's not about the number of conversations, it's about the number of meetings set. Oh, hey, it's not about the number of meetings set. Did you send an offer? Whatever it is, give yourself a minimum. So for me, I give myself a minimum. I say, like, look, at least 100 calls. Now, 100 calls may not lead to even one lead, but you give yourself a minimum. Now I've been pushing myself I'm pushing myself something that I've heard from Alex Hormozy that he's implemented within his portfolio of companies is the minimum is open to goal. So from the moment you start your prospecting or whatever it is you're doing, you go until you hit your goal. And ideally it would be for me either 2 leads or 1 offer sent. 1 LOI sent that day. If I find a lead and I already know my buyers would execute at a price, send an offer. But if you give yourself a minimum, you're not going to get distracted by that one bad call or that one guy who, told your mother to kiss rocks. Like, there's going to be those people that kind of like throw your game off, but you just got to be like, I'm gonna keep going. You want to just keep, you want to keep that vibe going. Like, and you know what's nice? A lot of people have, you probably have seen this where they have a calendar and it's a manual calendar where they just X the day and it's, hey, I hit my minimum that day. And once you see this whole row of months and then hopefully years of you just kept, I always hit my minimum, it builds that confidence. And I can say for myself, the confidence in getting on the phones has always gotten better because I'm stacking that undeniable proof that I will show up and get on the phone. And on top of that, because you keep hitting the phones every single day and you keep having a lot of conversations and you get sharper, your confidence builds. And that is palatable for a seller. I can't tell you how just my conversion or opportunity to keep the call alive has gotten better just because I'm giving myself that minimum. Like I will not stop until I hit this certain number of conversations or dials or offers because it just helps you. You just build that resilience factor. The next part that I think rolls deeply into this, like I like a dialer. Some people like to dial by hand. I have nothing against that. Sometimes you want to be a sniper shooter and you're like, hey, I want to do some research on this one specific property and I'll get all my information gathered and then I'll hit that call. I'm all for that. And I do sniper shoot sometimes. So I see a building, I'm like, man, I got to find that. That's not immediately available for me to just pull off of the dialer and I'll do that. And you can let me know if you agree in the chat. But if you have a meeting set on your calendar, like I'm going to cold call every single day. I have this cold call. I have exactly where I'm going to cold call every single day. It is a lot easier for you to show up and hit that bare minimum if it's just like on repeat. You're not overthinking. You're not getting stuck in analysis paralysis. You're just hitting the phones and whoever picks up. And sometimes you just have to accept, I'm just gonna have conversations today. I'm just gonna cold call and I don't care where it leads. Like you just need that. So I have used Mojo Dialer. I'm actually with Rec now, and I'm implementing using the Rec Dialer, which I think is a home run because if you're already databasing your list of properties that you're trying to prospect and owners that you're trying to hit, it's a game changer if it's already in your CRM. So if you can use something like Rec or even something like Mojo, whatever type of dialer you want to use, I would suggest doing that because I like when things are easy. We all like it when it's just easy to just get on the phone. And what I love about a dialer is like once I press start, I cannot stop. Doesn't matter if I'm like having a terrible day or a terrible call. The minute someone picks up, I gotta I'm on. When we talk about, and I'll just wrap that up, like wrap this whole point up, is we're not really aiming to be perfect. What we're aiming to do is remove the barrier of entry. We want it to be like, I don't even think about this. And I've had many days where I haven't even thought about it. I'm like, man, I'm already on the phone. Like, whoa, I just walked in the office, the dialer is already set up, my co-star is up, everything is ready to go and I'm on it. And Augie, I don't know if you want me to quickly talk about how I just real quick my setup, if that's helpful, or we can just jump to Elon.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. Dig in.
I'll make it real quick. So, a lot of times people want to know, like, how do you have your like screen set up? So I have a little MacBook Air, and most of you guys might have a Mac or a MacBook Pro or whether it's Windows, but I have multiple screens that I can, shift through, multiple desktops. So on my furthest left desktop, I have CoStar up. And that's all I have on that screen. CoStar, it's ready to go. Because as soon as on the next screen my dialer's going, the minute someone answers, some people are like, well, you don't prepare for a call. Like most of the time I don't, because as soon as that person answers, I'm already kind of like, hey, I already see the name on the screen. You know who you're calling. It'll tell you, and you'll see the address. Hey Nick, how you doing? Or hey Nick, this is C. John Armstead. How you doing? And immediately while I'm saying that, I'm copying, pasting my address and plopping it into CoStar. And as soon as they're like, who are you? I'm already having CoStar kind of populate the property. I'm like, hey, I'm calling about XYZ property. Yeah, how you doing? And then you're there. I mean, if you're like an asset class specialist or you're pretty familiar of what you're calling on, that's really all you need to get the conversation started. Because they're either going to tell you to kick rocks or they're like, well, what do you want? And then you start your script. And then you can talk intelligently and go through. On my third screen, I have my notes because you have to take notes. You have to, like, do not just wing cold calls and think that you're gonna get them back on the phone, because you might. I have realized, like, sometimes I've gotten a great lead, and that was the only time that I was able to get them on the phone. And I've tried like 5, 6, 7, 8 times. And Elon's probably done it. Elon's been in the game a lot longer than me, and he's probably had to do where like it took me 25 times, and I finally got him, and I would not let this guy get off the phone. So you just got to take it. This may be your only shot, so you want to be prepared in that regard. So
Yeah.
that's how I approach the pre-call.
Yeah, that's really good, man. I love that, and no, I love your tenacity of how you attack it. And some folks, and one thing I'll say, guys, is like you'll hear C. John do certain things, Elon do certain things, me do different things. There are strategies for success that work. Okay, but I will say people have different methods to get to that success. But there's a few things that are common, and I think in this, it's one of those things is volume in the attempts of actually going and making the dial. And to see John's point, like that's one of the biggest pieces of feedback that we see like from our dialer in rec is that really the biggest thing people do, and like one of the reasons why they use it is because of focus. Because if you have just like a cell phone and then an Excel spreadsheet, now all of a sudden, you get a ESPN notification, your wife texts you, somebody else calls you, whatever it may be. And then now all of a sudden you're distracted. And then so you get, 7 calls in, and then you get taken away on a separate item or phone call, or get scrolling through social media because you got a notification, whatever it may be. But the volume and the focus that it takes, man, I think that's, what C. John's saying, like that's the biggest thing. And I was even taking notes as well, like open to goal. I thought that was great. We usually have gone, hey, we're gonna call 50 properties, 50 properties, because there could be 2, 3, 4 owners. So how many ever owners it takes to get to that property is one thing, but like to your point, like hey, a meeting or 2 meetings or an LOI. I think that's a great way to go about it. That's the way you get results. Is you just don't stop until you get the result, which is cool. And before we jump off this, or before we move to during the call with Elon, C. John, for you, are you on the phones every day? Are you just a mornings guy, or is it afternoon as well, or do you do Monday, Wednesday, Friday? Real quick, just like what's your schedule, if you will, for business development and
Yeah.
cold?
So the goal for me is every day, like every day, get on the phones. Now, I would be a liar to tell you I have never missed a day. It's not true. Like this week has been a wild week. Thank God it's only because I have these deals that I'm trying to get either under contract or moves through. I would give yourself that you need account. If I can say anything, accountability. Find someone who's going to say, hey, you told me you were going to make 500 calls this week. Did you make it? Oh no, this came out. We had a tour. It's like, but you told me you were going to make 500 calls this week. Did you do it? No. Okay, what are you going to do to make sure that you do that? Well, protect your calendar. That's why I literally say put a time block, because if you see it there, you're not going to schedule a random coffee meeting. I like to just protect my mornings, but there are times where look, if we got a deal that's like it's something's on fire, you're gonna handle that. Don't be an idiot and be like, oh, sorry, I got to do 200 calls before I handle this $20 million deal that's under contract. Use the open to goal strategy. If you could only get 20 calls in or 25 calls in the morning, but you had to handle an emergency, guess who's not going home at 5 o'clock? You. You're going to make some calls after 5. You probably have seen some of my posts of making calls after 6. Sometimes that's just because I didn't get to it, but I know that I need to make the calls and you get different results. So maybe sometimes that means like, hey, I like this cadence of calling after 6 p.m. So maybe you either start your day a little bit later or you just do all the other stuff in the morning, but find the thing that you're going to commit to, because if you don't, you're going to just you're gonna say that it's too hard, but the reality is you're just not, like, thinking intuitively enough. If you know that you're, like, during lunchtime,
Mm.
you're just not going to do it, then don't put it in lunchtime, just do it. I like the I am the type of person that likes to feel like I've accomplished something early. And so if I walk in and the big frog that I have to swallow is getting on the phone, then when I've made 2 hours of prospecting calls, when I know and maybe I get a lead, I'm on fire the rest of the day. Like I work till like still like 7 or 8 because I'm moving stuff. Hey, I got a deal. I'll present it to a good investor or a good private equity firm. I get excited, and we all want to be excited, and excitement is contagious, and people can feel that when you have a client or you're working with the seller.
Accountability is big in there. Some folks I know that have great accountability, Elon, Adam, Cleveland, those guys at the ROI group. If you notice, they post on social every single day, all of them, because they're all accountable to each other. And the same thing with they have a real like legit brotherhood down there, which is awesome to see. So Elon, man, let's jump into during the call, if you would, sir.
Absolutely. So the pre-call is just as important as the call itself. If you are not preparing for your call, you are preparing to fail. It's the old adage, and it's very hard to get going when you don't know who you're going to call, what you're going to call. And if you're trying to figure that out during your session, whether it be scheduled or you just decide to get to it, and you're trying to figure out who to call now, by the time you actually make your first phone call, each one's going to take you 20 minutes. And it's just not for a productive way of going about it. At the end of the day, my team, I lead a team of 6 with my co-partner, Adam Klein, as Augie had mentioned. We lead a team of retail, office, and industrial sales in South Florida, being Broward, Palm Beach, and Miami-Dade. And all we do is sales. We are specialized in that. So when we make cold call lists, we already know who we're going to call. And it starts with being a specialist. So you don't want to be all across the board. So with me, I'm focusing only on retail, office, and industrial in those 3 counties. And the people on my team, when they're first starting, and for those of you who are maybe on the lower end of the spectrum on the boat that Augie took, as far as the GCI that you want to make, or your time in the business, I would say don't cast too wide of a net. Start very specialized and work your way out. So if start with one geographic area, start with one product type, and just hone in on that and dominate it, because you'll never be able to hold yourself accountable and know how much market share you have of that given market if you're not specializing on one thing. Because what ends up happening is it's like, oh, he sold an office building in West Palm Beach. I maybe could have called it. No. What you want is, I am focusing on only, call it, retail in Miami-Dade, and I am going to own it. And any person I see that listed a property in Miami-Dade, I want to know what they're doing that I'm not. I'm looking at their offering memorandum. I'm looking at, what is it that they are offering that I'm not, or they may be doing that I'm not, and I'm taking that personal. So I think the pre-call and being a specialist and really knowing what you're calling is as important as how you handle the call. And I know I was asked to just focus on the during the call, which certainly I'll do, but I just want to preface, we could go about this all day. This is not a one workshop master it at all. I'm going to provide you guys some basic steps on what you want to include in a cold call. But at the end of the day, you're only going to be as good as how prepared you are and knowing what you're going to be calling and who you're calling before you make that call section.
Yeah.
So that's extremely important. One thing before I'll get into the steps, and I know Augie will put it up there, is when you are on a cold call, get up out of your seat. Be excited. Feel like you're somebody who's worth talking to, because I am telling you, C. John, myself, Augie, and 1,000 other people that are in the same arena as you are calling on these same people. So you have a fraction of a second to make that person, when they answer the phone, believe that you're somebody worth speaking to and that you're going to add value to whatever it is that you're bringing to that conversation. Because if you do not exude that immediately, the chances of you having a good conversation are slight to zero. So you have a quick second to grab that attention. And a lot of it comes with confidence. A lot of it comes with energy. A lot of it comes with knowing what you're talking about because you are prepared. And the rest will sort of fall into place because you have that confidence and it's exuded over the phone, and the client or the prospect will buy into that. If you can't exude that very quickly, the conversation will not go well. The next thing I really want to hit on is, before we get into the actual steps of the cold call, is we are not salespeople. We are advisors, and that's it. The purpose of the cold call is very simple. It's not to get a listing. It's not to get a proposal. It is to get a meeting, and that's it. So you're not looking to get that sale on the phone. The moment that somebody feels like you're trying to sell them something is another moment that that call isn't going to go very well. So I think Beth Azor said it is, if you're telling, you're not selling. Selling is all about asking questions, getting on the same page with whatever the goals are of the person that you're in talking to, and getting aligned and show them how you can help them accomplish those goals. That's how you get the meeting. And that's what the purpose of the call is and what you want to exude over the call. So I just want to preface, we're not selling here. If anything, we are advisors. We're telling people what we're seeing in the market, what we're hearing in the market, what we're doing in the market, and anything that might be pertinent to a property that they own. To get into the steps of the cold call, it's very important that you're tracking all of this stuff. And it's the last thing I'll say before I get into the steps. Track your metrics. It's first, especially when you're first starting, you may not, it won't be as easy as tracking how much money you're making, right? So you want to start tracking things like, how many calls does it take for me to have for me to get somebody on the phone? How many people do I need to get on the phone before I have a conversation that was a good one, a developed conversation? And how many of those developed conversations do I need to have in order to get a meeting with somebody? And then you can figure out how many meetings you need to have in order to get a listing, how many listings you need to have in order to get a paycheck. But for right now, especially when you're starting, what you really want to focus on is, how many phone calls does it take for you to get that person on the phone, have a developed conversation with them, and get a meeting? And those are metrics when you're first starting that you really, really, really want to track, because that'll allow you to know how much time you need to block for cold calling. How many cold calls do you have to make? Because you know, based on your metrics, once you get more fine-tuned and you're in the game for longer, you're not going to have to make as many phone calls or take as many at-bats before you get a hit. And so my point is, just make sure you're tracking those metrics before, in that way you'll know exactly how many calls you need to make. As far as the cold call is concerned, these are the main points that I like to hit. Augie already put the first one on, the intro. So the intro is basically telling somebody very quickly who you are. My name is Elon Gerberg. I lead an active team that specializes in the sale of retail, office, and industrial properties. The next thing that you want to hit is a credibility statement. Why are you somebody who is worth speaking to? So it might be, we sell $100 million worth of commercial properties annually. It might be, we've sold 5 properties in this market in the past 6 months. It might be, we just sold the property next door. But whatever it is, make sure very quickly they know who you are and why you're somebody worth speaking to. And the next thing that you want to make sure that you have right behind that is an interest generator to get them interest generated. The interest generator is something like, I just sold the property next door. I have this property listed and I wanted to make sure you knew about it. Even if it's not your deal, it's very close to yours, and I thought it would be an excellent benchmark. Or it could be, if you don't have something to sell or you haven't sold anything, especially when you first started, it could be something that you saw sold. Hey, I just wanted to make sure you saw that this sold. very similar to your property. I'm sure you're aware of it, but if not, I wanted to make sure you were aware of the details. Or it could be something like this is developing next door. They're widening the street right in front of your property. That's why it's so important for us as brokers to be students of the game. You got to be subscribed to The Real Deal, South Florida Business Journal, following everybody who is anybody on social media, Traded, you name it. The more information that you have at your fingertips and the more that you're immersing yourself with this information, the more you're going to be able to intertwine it into your phone calls and use it as an instance generator. Hey, not sure if you saw, but they're getting ready to, GL Homes is getting ready to build 550 luxury homes right across the street from yours. And it's going to bring another, people are paying 1.5 million to live 30 miles west of the beach. Thought you'd want to know about it. Those are the type of things that we use in our interest generator that get them hooked and make you start thinking like you're somebody worth speaking to. And that is where you should be talking the most, is just in that initial period to get them hooked. From then, it very much switches to getting the client talking. So you want to be asking open-ended questions. Hey, my name's Elon Gerberg. I specialize in the sale of retail, office, and industrial properties and lead a team that sells about $100 million worth of properties annually. The reason for my call is I just sold a property next door to yours for $460 a square foot. We had 10 offers within 5 days of going to market, and I thought it was an excellent benchmark. Do you have a second? Sure. What do you got? Hey, well, here's a little bit about it. I noticed that you bought your property 30 years ago. What are you seeing in regards to the market, or what attracted you to the property, or whatever it is that your open-ended question will be? Start with something that says, hey, I noticed you own this. I'm curious. We've been very active in the market. What attracted you to that building, and how's that coming along? These are not questions that people can answer with yes, no, because then the ball is right back on you again, and you got to talk again, and you have no idea. Instead of having a real conversation, you're starting to think, what should I be talking about next? And that, for me and for my team, is probably the biggest fear of getting over. So you know how you want the call to start, sort of what you want to say on the call, where you want it to end, and you have all these notes in front of you of things that you can ask. And if the client starts feeling like it's just an interview and you're peppering them with questions, it's not going to go well. So it's really got to be about, hey, I noticed that you bought 123 Main Street in 2004. That was a long time ago. A lot of people have seen a lot of ups and downs. I'm curious, what attracted you to the property back then? Let them go and follow those questions up with more questions. The questions, again, that can't be answered with yes or no. I'm talking about who, what, where, when, why. Tell me more about that. Those are the things that are going to get them to continue to talk. And then you could start peppering them with more questions. Oh, I bought that property in 2004 because, I was a tenant in it. The seller was willing to hold paper, blah, blah, blah. Cool. So how's it been going since then? Tell me a little bit about management. And then the conversation can start, but it develops from having open-ended questions, and you'll start to see where sort of they're going. What I try to understand on the call is what attracted them to a certain property, what were their goals with the property, how are that coming along, and if they've achieved it, what is next? And then at the end of the day, I'm opening those open-ended questions, and as soon as I hear an opportunity to close for that meeting, I'm taking it immediately. I'm not trying to have a long-winded conversation. My calls, I want to keep to around 5 minutes or less. If there's a reason for me to talk to that person for more than 5 minutes, well, then there's a reason for us to meet each other. And I'm grabbing that meeting because I can exude a lot more professionalism and experience face-to-face than I can over the phone. So I'm not trying to cut corners. All I'm trying to do is get in front of them. And then I have my customer information packet. I have offering memorandums I've sold in the past. I'm doing a ton of research on other properties that they may own. So I am dangerous when it comes time for me to meet them. I'm going to be dressed in my best suit. I'm going to be looking like $1 million. And I am going to know everything about that property, what he bought it for, what he paid, who he bought it from, was there a broker involved. I'm going to be a complete expert in the whoever I am meeting business. And so that way I'm fully prepared. But these are the main steps of the cold call. A couple other things that I will say is it doesn't hurt to have Google Maps up as well. Google Maps is your friend, especially Street View. I can't tell you how many times I've typed in an address and then you can go back in dates and see what a property used to look like compared to now. You can look at what kind of the tenancy that they have there and how it's changed. There's so much information that you can gather that'll make it, even if you should be driving your markets and knowing these properties like the back of your hand. And that's why it's important to specialize. But if you don't, at the very least, use Google as your friend because it can make you sound like you know that street and you know that property if almost as well as the property owner. So at the end of the day, these are the main steps that you want to hit. There's no right way to go about them. You might mix it up a little bit because at the end of the day, a lot of people are hitting these. I think it's as much about making sure you're hitting these, but finding your own style and hitting them with confidence and exuding that you're somebody that's got a lot of energy, confidence, and is somebody worth speaking to during the call.
That is a lot. And folks, I will say that like this is all, I brought these guys on because I know this is all proven. This is not something that Elon just learned off YouTube yesterday, but this is something him and his team have implemented over the past decade or so. And it's been trial by fire. So he didn't, get this good from not going through thousands and thousands of reps. And it's something their team implements daily. I'm super grateful for that, and hopefully you guys are as well, because that's a masterclass for during the call. One thing I wanted to emphasize on really quick: Elon calling and saying, "Hey, we've transacted $100 million worth of real estate in the past 12 months." That's real news, folks. But I understand. Hey, I know half of the room has not gotten to the 50K mark, so that's probably not your story. However, you saying that you have $100 million worth of real estate database in your market, one of those being your property, provides a similar sentiment and gives the client a similar feel. Okay. It's kind of like when people throw out big numbers on their like Instagram bios or LinkedIn bios, it's just like they're automatically wowed by it. So if you are brand new to the business, but you have 100 properties database, 1,000 properties database, or whatever that equates to on a square feet basis, like say it's 100 million square feet or 45 million square feet. The part of the credibility statement, you don't have to have had done one transaction, but if you say, hey, we have 50 million square feet database in this market, one of those being your property, and then to get into it is like, oh, they're hearing somebody on the other end and say like, wow, this person is legit. They're an advisor. They have 50 million, 100 million square feet database, and one of those being my property. So I think that's a really good way to provide credibility, which I just like wanted to emphasize on. Oh, and real quick, one of the things I'm glad you mentioned to Elon, as far as picking a niche and building a database, that is the first step. That's pre-call. So this is actually one of the things that we're covering in our next event. What we're focused on is systems and strategy to go scale. So we titled it 3X your GCI in 2025. And what we're doing there is strategy and systems. And one of those things is picking a niche. So how do you do that? Is specializing for you? Because also like specializing in certain markets, I know people that they really can't specialize because they're in a very, very tertiary market, and there's only 70 of those property types of one property type in a 3 or 4 hour drive time, which is a really, really difficult thing. So that's one of the things that we're going to cover in this next event. So if you would, I'll give you a minute here to go ahead and get registered for the next event. And we're going to be talking about picking your niche, specialization, strategy, and systems. Because there's a quick turnaround to this as well. This event's in like 2 weeks. The reason for this is because November and December are the absolute best times to be working on your craft. Okay. So a lot of the business, unless it's end of the year, 1031 stuff, a lot of people are taking off for the holidays. They slow down a little bit. There's going to be, the office is quieter between, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and all the holidays there. And so for you to be able to work on your business is something that's big and that I highly recommend. So we're going to talk all about that, all about opportunity score, which is how to pick a lucrative niche. So be sure you register for that event.
Just could say one more thing.
We missed the
grab
email
our
address.
email
Drop
address
the
if
email
you don't
address.
get the email. If you don't get the meeting, grab their email address. I forgot that because
Right.
everybody should be having a CRM also or some way to track notes because you're not going to get the meeting every time, but at least get something that you can use on your next call to push the ball forward. This is not a business that you can microwave. It's it's a slow cook. You got to throw it
Crock
in the
pot.
crock pot and just sort of wait. So one thing I will say, it's a shameless plug, but my team is very, very active on social media. And we try to put a lot of these tips on our social media. So feel free to follow us. My handles on all my social media is Elon Gerberg ROI. I'll type it in the chat, but feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to be a resource for you guys individually, but we put a lot of our tips on, the day-to-day tackling of what we do on a day-to-day on there. And it should be a lot of value for you guys.
So post call, leaving a voicemail because as Elon stated, you're not going to get a connection every single time, right? So like whatever that rate is for every 7 dials, 10 dials, 15 dials, you might get one connection, which means you're getting a whole lot of voicemails. So one thing that I really try to focus on in a voicemail is an enticing factor to get a call back. Okay, and part of how this goes is saying, as Elon stated, there was a sale down the street. There's a new development. There's this lease was just signed. This sale comp just came through, and it greatly affects the value of your property. I wanted to run it by you. Can you give me a call back when you get a chance? So like they don't know if it's good, if it's bad, what the comp is. Like if I own a building and I think it's about $100 a square foot, what was the comp down the street? Which comp is he talking about? Is it comparable to mine, as in like next door? Is it $130 a square foot, or is it 220, or is it 60? I don't know. But if you leave a voicemail like that, that has some curiosity attached to it, and it's affecting the value of their property, that's one of the type of voicemails that you can leave. And like I said, I would just always recommend having some urgency and some curiosity that affects them in a voicemail, because that is going to skyrocket your chances of getting a call back. Follow up. Okay, as the guys mentioned, like, hey, having a CRM to do this is great to set a follow up cadence or sequence. But if you're not, and if you're sub 50K and you're not putting money there yet, like that's completely okay. If you make, say, all your calls in 1 week and then you keep a running list, this is a good hack to do for the free here. Is you make all your notes and you have all the people that you've talked to, say even in an Excel spreadsheet. You don't want to spend any money on any fancy software yet. You take those notes and you take those bolded names, those highlighted names, whatever it may be, and then you set a calendar event for the next week or for a month from now or whatever it may be. And I highly recommend sequencing this. So at least having 2 to 3 follow-ups. I think 3 is a really, really good number, because this, and I did this for the first couple of years of my career. So like pot calling the kettle black here. We all learn as we grow and move on in this business. But I would call through a database and like, oh, I only talked to 20 people or 30 people or whatever it may be. Well, there might have been 300 people in that database, and then I would go back through that database and just, then build another one or tack on another property type, and it would just be messy. So I would highly, highly recommend is like, hey, if you have a, 300 property database and you only talk to 20 or 30 people, that means that there's 280 people that you didn't talk to, and you want to be sure that you have something in the pipe to give to them in, say, a week, 3 weeks, a month, 2 or 3 months, whatever that may be, to be sure that like you have that extra touch point, because it's taking another shot. So like I said, if you have software that can do this for you, if not, use Google Calendar and put all these names of like, hey, here's all the people I dialed and here's who didn't pick up. Put the, highlight them in your Excel spreadsheet, put them in a calendar event, and put 3 of them. Put a email, maybe a text message, and then another phone call or whatever that sequence may be. And that's really the power of sequencing, is coming from different angles. Okay, so if you were to text somebody before your call, or you text somebody right after your call, or you email them, or or they're on LinkedIn, maybe you're doing more like tenant rep or owner user, and you can send them a LinkedIn DM. That is one thing that can be incredibly powerful, is coming from multiple angles. Because if y'all remember in the last event, I guess I don't remember the last event. I forgot what the number of it. It was like it was in the trillions. C. John was there. I don't even know if you remember it, but there was like 3-4 trillion calls that go out every single year, and
Yeah.
it's multiple billion per day. So
Mhm.
like you are going to have a lower success rate on the phones. So being able to hit them from email, text message, messenger pigeon here, you want to get any and every way you can in front of that client. That is what I would highly recommend for after the call. And as I mentioned, email, text, and handwritten note as well. So this takes more time. If you're just starting out and you're throwing everything against the wall, it's like, hey, write as many handwritten notes as you can. This can be done at nights or early mornings, or if you're watching Netflix, whatever it may be, do some handwritten notes. Or if there's a property owner that you're really trying to get after, maybe in that 300 property database, there's 50 of them that own multiple properties. Okay, like that is going to be more worth your while to go write those handwritten notes. Okay, because like Elon knows this as well. There's a lot of property owners in South Florida that own 3, 5, 10 assets, and like you become that guy or that gal's right hand person to help them in their portfolio, whether it's just advising them or leasing them, leasing their space, or selling their space, buying more assets, whatever it may be. Handwritten notes to property owners and clients is a really good thing here. We're going to have a few quick calls here. So we're going to jump into some live role play. So the first scenario we got, I threw him a little bit of a underhand throw here, but we got the scenario is Miami, Florida, retail property. It's a neighborhood shopping center. I've seen Elon transact. I'd have to pull off my socks and count on my toes. Like he's knocked down a lot of these assets on the last 12, 18 months or so. But the owner, say it's mom and pop, and they bought in 1999. All right. So this is the scenario we have for the live role play here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna have Elon call C. John. Let's get a dial happen. If you want your fake phone, the fake phone always makes me feel more comfortable. All right, go ahead, Elon.
All right. Ring, ring.
Hello,
Hi, can I speak with C. John?
this is C. John. Who's this?
C. John, this is Elon Gerberg calling from SVN Commercial Partners. I lead an active team that specializes in properties just like the one that you own in Miami. And we just sold one down the street for a crazy number. I thought at the very least you should know about it, and it'd be an opportunity to introduce myself if you got a minute.
Okay. What property is that?
So we sold the property just off the corner of Miami Gardens and 441. It was a neighborhood shopping center, very similar to yours. Um, Mostly mom and pop tenants. The only one really to write home about was a Sherwin-Williams. They only had a couple years left of term on it, but very, very, very sought after. I think within 7 days of going to market, we had 12 offers. And so I wasn't sure what, I know you've owned your property for quite a long time. I have in my records here, you've owned it since 99. So I figured somebody like yourself who's been through a few cycles, I wanted to make sure that, this was a good data point for you. I mean, it's sort of a barometer as to where properties just like yours are selling, and see what you're looking to do in the market with yours.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, I've owned it for a long time. I don't know if I'll sell it. Maybe my kids will take it, or something like that. But that's interesting to know. That you sold it for a high price. And I mean, do you guys have any other properties that you guys typically list, or is this the last one you've done?
No, I have about $80 million listed in exclusive inventory. In fact, CJ, are you a local in South Florida? I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and I'm embarrassed to say we've actually never been on the phone with each other. So I'm glad that we've been able to do that. But are you local here in South Florida?
Yeah, yeah, I'm local. I just, I'm not out there that much. I'm a bit older and slowing down quite a bit, so I'm not always out there like that. But yes, I've been here forever.
Cool. Well, listen, I'd love to be able to meet you and show you some of the inventory that we have. No pressure whatsoever, but I think at the very least we can be a great resource for you. As I told you, we sold about 20 properties just like yours thus far this year. We have $80 million in exclusive inventory. I don't want to bore you on the phone and go behind every single door and see which one fits, but I'd love to come and meet you, learn a little bit about what you're looking to accomplish, and see if we can be a resource for you. There's no doubt that wherever you are in your real estate, tenure, there's something that we can add. And if nothing else, I'd love to, have chance to finally meet you after all these years.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not, we can definitely get together. I mean, when do you think you'd want to meet? I mean, I'm going to be away on vacation the next 2 weeks, but after that,
Hey,
maybe.
listen, I'm not trying to be a problem for you. I'm trying to be an asset. So why don't we do this? What's a good email address for you, C. John?
See Armstead at tortoiserealtygroup.com.
Awesome. So I have that, and this is the best phone number to reach you on directly, the one I'm talking to you on now.
It is. You're lucky I answered. I never
Awesome.
answered.
Well, listen, I feel privileged, and hopefully I can return that luck right back to you. Here's what I'm going to do. I don't want you to think I'm just pulling your leg here. I'm going to shoot you an email with my track record. Shows you a little bit about some of the properties that we've sold in the past. You'll see our team website. Maybe you can browse through some of the inventory that we have. And then when you said you're getting back in a couple of weeks, I have a meeting. Actually, since I have this property that we're going to be bringing out in the area, and maybe I can fit it in then. But what is typically best for you? Do you like mornings? Do you like afternoons? I could probably keep it pretty open since we're a couple weeks out here.
Yeah, morning. Yeah, morning's fine.
Awesome. So I'm looking 2 weeks out from today, and that looks like the first week of November. How's your Wednesday looking like? Will you be back in town?
Yeah, that should be fine. Yeah. Just send it to my
Awesome.
calendar and I'll let you know
I'm
if
going to
that's
shoot it to you now. There's a Starbucks that's right by there that I'm just going to put in as a placeholder. But why don't we shoot to reconnect a couple days beforehand in a couple weeks? I'll just make sure that time works for you. And I'm very much looking forward to meeting you and learning a little bit about you and seeing if we can be some help to your real estate goals.
perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Elon.
Awesome. If I could just, if had CJ said, "Hey, I'm not looking really to meet right now," I don't stop asking for the meeting then, right? I might, hey, totally get it. So tell me a little bit more about what you're looking to accomplish. Now I'm digging in more, I'm asking more questions. And then I'm saying, hey, listen, I know the time didn't really work out, but here's a reason why I think it may be beneficial for us to meet. Why don't I grab coffee? I'll come by your office, something like that. And I'm trying for a second time at minimum. And then if I don't get it, at the very least, like I said, I'm trying to get an email address. I'm confirming that all the phone numbers that have gone dee, 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 like this is finally the one that works and it's a good one and I have it cleaned up. At the very least, I want to get some value out of this call, whether it be their email address, whether it be I'm cleaning up and make sure I have the right phone number. But also I'm like, hey, I realized when I spoke on the phone, he was going to be out of town a couple of weeks. My next question might have been, hey, where are you going? Who are you visiting? You're going to
Yeah.
see your grandkids. Fantastic. I call up in a couple weeks and I say, hey, how was your trip with your grandkids? Awesome. Listen, I was thinking about you again because that property that we discussed, there's another one we just bought. Before I even brought it out, I thought I'd get it in front of you. Are you still going to be back in town? Why don't we meet? And then the second time is going to be that much more easy than the first time when he didn't know who I was and he's a little bit more familiar with me. So
Right.
if you're making that call and you don't get it and you hit them with the follow-ups like Augie was talking about, you connect with them on social, you connect with them on email, you send them that hard letter, whatever the case may be, then the whole point of it is the next time when you have that call, it's not really a cold call, it's a warmish cold call.
All right, so hopefully you enjoyed the materials in that video and it made you better and more comfortable with cold calling in commercial real estate. And the next step is for you to get started and pick up the phone yourself. So we have a cold calling script book that is completely free. I have used these scripts personally to make millions of dollars in gross commissions, and we're giving it to you completely free. There is a link attached below, or you can head to our website in the resources tab where you can download that script book and start conquering cold calling for yourself. So as always, be sure to like and subscribe to the video, all our other social media channels, and we'll see you in the next video.